Imagine walking into a room where two people are on the verge of tearing each other apart. Between them sits a single object. One points at it and shouts. It's a perfect circle. The other slams a fist on the table. Are you blind? It's obviously a square. The argument grows louder. Friends take sides. Families become divided. Neither person backs down. Both are willing to lose relationships, rather than admit they might be wrong. So you ask yourself a simple question. Which one is lying? Or perhaps, which one has lost their mind? The unsettling answer is neither, because the object they're looking at hasn't changed. Only the way they're seeing it has. As strange as that sounds, the same thing happens every single day. Not with shapes, not with shadows, but with ideas, beliefs, memories, religion, politics, justice, right and wrong. There's an old tale about a kingdom where every person believed they saw the world exactly as it was. No one questioned their own eyes, until one ordinary citizen witnessed an accident that revealed something no one else had ever noticed. And in that single moment, he discovered the kingdom's greatest secret wasn't hidden in the world around them. It was hidden in the way they saw it. Long before maps had given names to every corner of the world, there stood an ancient city unlike any other. Its name was Aethelgard, a kingdom built where 7 great trade roads crossed. From dawn until the stars reclaimed the sky, its streets pulsed with life. Merchants from distant deserts bartered fragrant spices beside northern blacksmiths whose hammers sang against glowing steel. Silks from eastern kingdoms danced in the breeze beside rough wool carried from frozen mountains. The air was rich with the scent of cinnamon, cedarwood, fresh bread, and rain-soaked stone. Street musicians filled crowded squares with melodies that echoed between towering marble halls, while children darted through winding alleys, laughing as though the city itself had taught them joy. To an outsider, Aethelgard seemed like paradise. Its markets overflowed. Its libraries reached toward the heavens. Its scholars were admired across kingdoms. Its judges were praised for their wisdom. Its temples welcomed thousands each morning. Yet beneath its beauty, something invisible had begun to poison the city. Arguments, not ordinary disagreements, but arguments that could shatter families. A father would swear the harvest had failed because the gods were displeased. His son would insist it was nothing more than changing weather. Neighbors who had shared meals for decades suddenly refused to speak. Merchants abandoned lifelong partnerships over a single dispute. Brothers became strangers. Friends became enemies. Yet every conversation threatened to become one. What puzzled the city's elders most was this. Neither side believed they were lying. Each argued with complete sincerity. Each spoke with absolute certainty. Each was willing to stake their reputation, their family, even their life, on what they believed to be true. Among the thousands who called Aethelgard home lived an ordinary young archivist named Caelan. He was neither a warrior nor a nobleman. He carried no sword, only books. His days were spent beneath towering shelves of weathered scrolls, preserving the kingdom's history one page at a time. He believed knowledge could settle any disagreement. If people argued, the records would reveal the truth. If they searched long enough, every answer could be found. It was a comforting belief, one that had guided his entire life. Until the morning everything changed. The city's grand exchange was more crowded than anyone could remember. Caravans had arrived from every kingdom. Voices rose above the ringing of blacksmiths' hammers. Coins clinked against wooden stalls. Children weaved through the sea of merchants. Then, without warning, a terrified horse broke free from his wagon. The marketplace erupted into chaos. People screamed. Crates splintered across the cobblestones. Merchants scattered in every direction, and in the confusion, Caelan found himself standing exactly where he should never have been. The runaway horse thundered through the marketplace like a bolt of lightning. Its frightened eyes were wide. Its iron-shod hooves shattered baskets of fruit, overturned wooden carts, and sent merchants diving for cover. "Moo!" someone screamed, but the warning came too late. A heavy cart, struck by the horse's flank, lurched violently toward Caelan. He turned. For a single heartbeat, everything became still. Then, the cart crashed into him. His body slammed against the ancient cobblestones with a sickening force. The world dissolved into ringing silence. Darkness swallowed him. When Caelan opened his eyes, the marketplace had become strangely quiet. Faces hovered above him, blurry, concerned. Someone was calling his name. "Can you hear me?" He tried to answer, but the words refused to come. Instead, something felt wrong. There was an unfamiliar coolness against his skin. A breeze, not on his face, but in his eyes. He lifted a trembling hand. His fingers brushed across his cheek, his brow, then stopped. Something that had always been there was gone. Near the shattered wheel of the cart, a small piece of polished crystal caught the morning sun. It glittered among the broken wood. Without thinking, Caelan picked it up. The fragment curved gently, no larger than a leaf. He frowned. It looked oddly familiar, almost impossibly familiar. Before he could study it further, a voice cried out, "The apples are blue." Another answered immediately, "Blue? Have you lost your senses? They're clearly red." Caelan looked toward the fruit stall. His breath caught. The apples were both not changing, not shifting, simply different. One merchant reached for a basket filled with brilliant crimson fruit. Another reached toward the very same basket, confidently pointing to fruit that appeared a deep shade of blue. Neither hesitated, neither pretended. Each reacted with complete certainty. Caelan blinked. Again and again, the colors remained. His heart began to race. He looked around the marketplace. Cloth merchants argued over fabrics that somehow seemed to change from one person to another. Children laughed while describing birds with feathers no one else seemed to agree upon. Painters stood before the same sunrise, capturing entirely different skies. How had he never noticed? How had no one? His hands began to shake. Slowly, almost afraid of the answer, he raised the curved shard of crystal to his eye. The marketplace instantly changed. The blue apples vanished. Only the red remained. He lowered the shard. Both colors returned. He lifted it again. The world changed once more. For the first time in his life, Caelan wasn't questioning the kingdom. He was questioning his own eyes. That evening, Caelan did not return to the marketplace. He returned to the Hall of Records. If there was an answer, it had to exist somewhere within the thousands of scrolls that lined its endless shelves. Hour after hour, he searched through forgotten journals, faded royal decrees, and brittle manuscripts untouched for centuries. Nothing, not a single record, mentioned the crystal fragment, now hidden inside his pocket. It was as if history itself had chosen to forget it. Just before dawn, exhausted and defeated, Caelan stumbled upon a sealed chest buried beneath a collapsed shelf. Dust rose into the air as he forced it open. Inside lay a collection of weathered scrolls wrapped in cracked leather. Unlike every other document in the archives, these bore no royal seal, only a single symbol, an eye, surrounded by a circle of crystal. His pulse quickened. Carefully, he unrolled the oldest scroll. The ink had faded with time, yet one sentence remained unmistakably clear. Every child shall receive the lens. that all may see as one. Caelan frowned. The lens. He whispered the words aloud. He had never heard them before. His hands trembled as he continued reading. Generations ago, long before anyone living could remember, Aethelgard had nearly destroyed itself. Its people came from distant lands. Each spoke different languages. Each followed different customs. Each understood the world in different ways. Fear turned neighbors into enemies. Misunderstanding became violence. Then a council of scholars and rulers proposed a solution, not to change the world, but to change how the people saw it. Every child born in Aethelgard would receive a finely crafted crystal lens, fitted so perfectly before their earliest memories that no one would ever notice it was there. Children would grow up believing the lens was simply part of themselves. Parents who had worn one since infancy never questioned it. Neither did their children. And their children's children. As centuries passed, the ritual became tradition. Tradition became certainty. And certainty became invisible. No one remembered putting the lens on, because no one had ever experienced life without it. Caelan reached slowly toward his face. His fingers touched bare skin. For the first time in his life, there was nothing between his eyes and the world. Suddenly, every argument he had ever witnessed echoed through his mind. The merchants, the judges, the priests, the scholars, the families who had stopped speaking, the friends who had become strangers. None of them had been trying to deceive one another. Each had simply been describing the world, exactly as they saw it, and every one of them believed. Their vision was reality itself. Caelan closed the ancient scroll. For the first time, he understood that the kingdom's greatest prison had never been built from stone. It had been built from certainty. The tale isn't really about Aethelgard. It never was. No kingdom has ever placed crystal lenses over the eyes of its children. Yet somehow, every one of us grows up wearing them. Not lenses of glass, but lenses no less powerful. The family that raised us. The stories we heard before we were old enough to question them. The language we learned. The books we read. The teachers we admired. The traditions we inherited. The faith we embraced. The culture that surrounded us. The victories that rewarded us. The pain that changed us. Piece by piece, they become the invisible lens through which we interpret the world. Two children can witness the same event and remember two different stories. Two adults can read the same book and discover two different meanings. Two nations can study the same moment in history and teach it in completely different ways. Each side convinced the evidence speaks for itself, but evidence never speaks alone. It is always interpreted. That is why arguments are rarely about facts alone. They are battles between invisible worlds. One person says, "This is justice." Another says, "This is oppression." One calls it freedom. Another calls it chaos. Neither believes they are inventing reality. Both believe they're simply describing it, just as the people of Aethelgard did. The tragedy wasn't that they saw differently. The tragedy was believing that seeing differently could only mean someone else was blind. Perhaps the greatest illusion isn't believing something untrue. Perhaps it is believing that we see without a lens. And perhaps wisdom begins, not when we finally convince everyone else, but when we quietly ask ourselves, what part of what I call reality has been shaped by the lens I've worn all my life? Psychologists have spent decades trying to understand a simple question. Why do intelligent, honest people look at the same reality and reach completely different conclusions? One answer is something called naive realism. Despite its name, it isn't about being naive. It's the deeply human tendency to believe that we see the world exactly as it is. When someone agrees with us, we assume they've seen the truth. When they disagree, we often assume they've missed it, or worse, that they're irrational, biased, or unwilling to face reality. But here's the paradox. The very people we believe are biased often believe the exact same thing about us. Neither side thinks they're wearing a lens. Each believes they're simply looking through a clear window. Then there's confirmation bias. Once we form a belief, our minds quietly begin searching for evidence that supports it. Contradicting information doesn't receive the same welcome. It is questioned more harshly, remembered less clearly, or dismissed altogether, not because we're dishonest, but because our brains prefer consistency over uncertainty. Another powerful force is belief perseverance. Even when the original reason for a belief is proven false, the belief itself often survives. It quietly finds new reasons to justify its existence. Then comes cognitive dissonance, that uncomfortable feeling when new information clashes with what we already believe. Most of us imagine we'd change our minds if presented with enough evidence. In reality, our first instinct is often to reduce the discomfort, sometimes by questioning the evidence, sometimes by defending the belief, sometimes by avoiding the conversation entirely. And perhaps the strongest lens of all is identity. Our beliefs are rarely just ideas. They become part of who we are, our family, our community, our faith, our culture, our sense of belonging. When a belief becomes part of our identity, changing our mind can feel less like correcting a mistake and more like losing a piece of ourselves. That's why some arguments become so emotional. People aren't always defending an opinion. They're defending the person they believe themselves to be. The people of Aethelgard never realized they were wearing lenses. Neither do we. Our lenses aren't made of crystal. They're shaped by childhood, by love, by fear, by education, by pain, by success, by every conversation, every book, every victory, and every wound we've carried through life. None of this means truth doesn't exist. It means reaching it requires something many of us find surprisingly difficult. Humility, the willingness to ask, what if I'm seeing only part of the picture? Because wisdom isn't the absence of conviction. It's the courage to question the lens through which that conviction was formed. Perhaps that's why the wisest people in history often spoke with the greatest humility, not because they knew less than everyone else, but because they understood how easily the mind can mistake its own perspective for reality. And that is the psychology beneath the tale.